Hello and welcome to another analysis session with me, Grandmaster Simon Williams. The game I'm going to look at today is another game that I played, and I think it's always good looking at games you play yourself because you have a better understanding of them. And it was a very exciting game where I must admit I was quite lucky to hold the draw in the end. And it was from the last round of the Vienna Open. Now, this is quite an important game because had I won this game, I'd have won some decent prize money. I guess something like €500, maybe something even more than that possibly. Could have been twice that much, but it would have been a nice amount to take home with me. And on paper, it looked like I would dare I say, an easier game because I'm a Grandmaster and my opponent was only rated 2,201. But it didn't go that way. He played extremely well for most of the game. Obviously, he missed a couple of opportunities. And like I said, I was fortunate to draw. The other thing I should mention is he seemed like a really nice guy. We analysed the game briefly afterwards, even though we're both shattered. And had my opponent won, he would have got an international master norm. So he must have been a bit distraught, but he didn't show it. So on with the game. So I had the white pieces as well, another advantage. And it started with d4, and I now played a very sharp line. I went c4. This is the Queen's Indian. My opponent played d5, going back into a typical Queen's Indian structure. Now, knight to c3, and here I was quite happy to see him play the sharpest move in this position. Pawn to c6. And I really like these kind of positions. I think these kind of positions after the move bishop g5 are some of the most fascinating opening-wise you can get in chess. You get very sharp, attacking, tactical, crazy positions. And the other day, actually, I think it was on the YouTube channel, someone said, isn't it better to play 1e4 rather than the move 1d4 if you're a tactical player? So, because I suppose traditionally, e4 is meant to be a sharper move to play. But I disagree, as you're going to see. I think nowadays you can play the move d4 and make things incredibly interesting and sharp from an early stage. And I recommend a lot of variations which enter into tactical battles in my latest DVD, Killer D4, which you can buy from the shop. Bloody good DVD. Go and get yourself a copy. Okay, so what did my opponent play now? Well, there's a couple of moves here. The Moscow variation is where they go h6 here. And white now has a choice of sacrificing a pawn with bishop h4 or taking on f6. Now, there's also the Cambridge Springs variation. Really cool name, that one. With knight bd7. And here the main move is e3, but I prefer a move that Korchnoi used to play, queen c2. Going for a pawn sack, but again, these things are well analysed in the DVD. My opponent, on the other hand, played pawn takes c4, and this is the coolest variation. This is now entering into the Botvinnik Semi-Slav, and well, you have to really play a move like e4 here. And now, if I can win back that pawn, I will have a nice advantage due to my centre and my development advantage. So black really has to play the move b5, holding on to this pawn. And we get a typical structure, and a structure which I have to say I've played most of my life, and I really enjoy playing normally with white, where you've sacked a pawn, but you get this pawn centre, and black has to be quite careful, but black can also use his pawns later on the queen side. Now, the key move here is the move I played, e5. And this looks like it might be winning a knight on f6. There's only one way that black can stop this from occurring. h6, a counter-attack. Now, bishop h4, keeping the pin. And this forces black to play the move g5. And I would assume that this helps white making black play this move. Because if you think logically now, if black in a lot of positions ever tries to castle kingside, his king's going to be a bit exposed there now that he's moved this g-pawn forwards to g5. Now here I played a move which I kind of regret playing. In the DVD I recommend the move bishop g3 here, a nice simple way to play where white can gain a nice initiative, and I know this variation extremely well. But instead, I thought, right, well, he's obviously prepared for this move. And a couple of rounds ago, I actually prepared the super sharp move, knight takes g5, against, was it Berman? Strong Grandmaster. I prepared this move. I didn't get this in the game, but I thought, well, I prepared this line against, I prepared it for a couple of hours, a couple of days before. So I thought I'm going to try to get my preparation in, because it's a lot of fun, very tactical, crazy. It is mental what happens there, absolutely mental. Now, I've actually, as black here, played the move knight d5, which gets really mental, with the tactical sequence knight takes f7, queen takes h4, and now knight takes h8, and a move like bishop b4 here. Black sacrifices the exchange and even a pawn, I believe, to get the initiative, but it's probably unsound, this line. So my opponent played the main line, he simply took back, and now I took back on g5. I will win my piece back because the knight is badly positioned. My opponent has to defend this knight, otherwise bishop takes as a strong move. So he went knight bd7, and now I simply play pawn takes f6. And here, it's unbelievable. I mean, I don't know if you can say this is luck or being unlucky, but the other day, when I prepared this position, I fought everything. I prepared the main move, the main line, which is bishop b7, g3, c5 at some point, attacking the rook, d5, queen b6. And this is the main line Semi-Slav, and it's crazy. You go bishop g2 and black castles queenside. And look at this. This is rock and roll chess. This is the kind of chess which you can have a lot of fun in. And I looked at this position quite deeply. I analysed it with the latest computer, Komodo, and I was very happy entering into this because I knew what I was doing. So I was covered for this one. That's the main line. What else did I cover? I covered moves such as bishop h6 at certain times. This is a line. And I thought I covered everything. And then my opponent goes and plays queen a5. And I thought, bugger, old boy, because it's the only move I did not prepare, and I haven't looked at this line for something like probably about 20 years. And I was like, oh God, here I go again. My opponent whipped out this move like the speed of lightning. Whoosh! And I'm like sitting there thinking, oh dear, here we go again. I don't know what I'm doing. It's a very theoretical position, and I'm going to have to make it up as I go along. And, well, I mean, the problem I thought here is if I go g3, which is actually a move, I have to watch out for ideas of bishop a6, and I kind of thought, I don't really like this. Bishop g2, trying to get the main line kind of stuff, and now there's moves such as b4, knight to e4, and c3. And you can sort of see how this is quite annoying for me, because of course I want to castle kingside. I don't really want to allow my opponent to have fun like this, in these positions. So I don't know. This looked like, I don't want to get involved with this tactically. So I thought, okay, why not move my bishop to e2 in this line? Because at least now I can save a tempo by castling quicker. Makes a lot of sense. My opponent whipped out his next move, whoosh, bishop b7, and here I castled, and can't be doing anything wrong yet, I thought. And now my opponent castled, and in this position I probably made the first mistake. I think in chess, generally, when you've got a position, if it's not really a tactical calculation position where you have to spend time, when there's forced moves and you have to work out what's going on, you have to spend a lot of time. But my first tip is, I find, in a position where you've got multiple choices, stick with your instinct. Don't overthink the position. Stick with what your instinct tells you. And in this position, I fought for maybe the longest think of the whole tournament, about 40 minutes, maybe half an hour. And I played a move which I didn't really like, and it was proved to be a very bad move. Now, my first initial thought was, well, let's get the queen out of the pin and move the queen somewhere like queen c1, because on c1, I can defend the bishop and I stop bishop h6. So this is my first thought, and it proves that this move is okay. But I have to say, even here, I think black has got a very interesting position. And I was worried about the line c5 now, which is a traditional move, opening up this bishop towards my king side. And I also have to watch out for the other bishop coming here as well. So it kind of looks a bit scary for both of us, because his king is not as happy as Larry. Don't ask me who Larry is. No idea. And the only line I wanted to play here, because I thought, well, speed is of the essence here. And if I start playing defensively, he's going to get there first. So I didn't like a move like rook d1. I didn't like this. I thought, well, he's going to either move his bishop to d6, his queen to c7, and I'm going to have to defend here. I don't want to do this. I was trying to make, in my time, the counter-strike a4 work. And this is a key pawn move in these positions. You need to play moves like a4 and b3 to open up lines on the queen side. But I couldn't see a good variation here after b4. And of course, I'm not going to go backwards here. The only logical move is knight b5. And now simply a6. And I thought, well, this is actually, I'm not so happy with this, because if I give up the piece, bishop takes c4, and then I open up the a file, which may look a bit scary, he just goes queen c7 here, and he threatens checkmate on this square. If I go bishop f4, he simply goes bishop d6, and where is my compensation? His bishop on b7 is a great attacking piece and a defending piece. It defends rook a8 check, defends his king. So I spent all this time trying to make this work, and I gave up in the end because it looked like a pile of dog doodah, and we don't want to play dog doodah. And in the end, I thought, well, what am I kind of thought I don't like my position, but why don't I like my position? I haven't really done anything wrong. I mean, I spent another lot of time on bishop f3, but now we see one of the negative effects of putting the bishop here rather than on g2. This is logical because I want to fight against c5. This is very logical. But then I thought, well, knight e5 here. And the funny thing is, I always saw knight e5, but I had a mental block about the move knight c5, which is really weird. And I was thinking, well, I don't like this either, because if I move my bishop, he has knight d3 in a lot of positions, and I was even trying to sacrifice the queen here with this. But after rook takes queen, rook takes rook, he has this move b4 here. And if he can go queen takes e5, next move, when I don't trust my position, because he gets rid of the strong pawn, he threatens mate again, and I don't have enough compensation here. So what do I do? What do I actually play here? It occurs afterwards that the best move, a move I didn't really consider. So if I got this position again, the best move seems to be queen c2. And the point of this is, after something like b4, you can go knight e4, and c5, my knight is defended on this square. So queen c2 is actually, quite a logical move, but I don't know why it didn't occur to me. Anyway, let's go on with the game, because it got extremely exciting, and I played the move a3. So I went for this a3 move with the intention. The intention here was that I wanted, in this position, to play the crazy move b4. This is another move that occurred to my rather odd mind. And the point is, if he takes with the queen, at some point I want to go a4, and he can't play b4 himself. So I'm forcing the opening of the positions, because if I ever go a4 in these positions, he's always going to go b4, and he keeps the queen side closed. So my rather weird logic is, if I go b4, let's say he goes bishop takes b4, I'm now going to go knight e4, and I'm threatening a4. The more I looked at this, though, the more I realised it was a load of turgid rubbish, because he just goes queen c7 here. And again, this move queen c7 is always such an annoying move, because he threatens checkmate on h2, and my pawn sacrifice is really just, it's not working. So, okay. So, going along these thoughts, I thought, okay, I'll go a3 first. But I didn't really believe this move. It's too slow. And also, it leaves a gaping hold on b3. So, it's really a terrible move, this. My opponent played queen c7, and now I played another mistake. I should go g3 here, because then I have bishop f4. I played pawn to f4 myself, which is a bad move. My bishop is now trapped. And the move I totally missed was knight c5, and he suddenly played this move, and I was like, oh my god, what have I done? What have I done? I totally missed this move. What an idiot. I mean, everyone misses moves and ideas, and in the last round of a competition, you're tired. Let me get my excuses in. I was very annoyed when he played this. It's unbelievable. I just had an oversight. And the point is, he wants to go simply knight b3, knight takes d4, and if he wins this pawn, my position just crumbles. It's completely rubbish. So here I had a very unpleasant choice to make. Do I give up the rook? Do I give up the pawn? Or do I give up the queen? And I decided, look, F it, I'm going to give up the queen. So I went pawn takes. Okay, he went bishop takes pawn check, king h1, and now he just took my queen. I took back, and we get this kind of weird position. And I thought, practically speaking, this is where I can be quite strong sometimes, and it's a good bit of advice. When you've got a choice between a lot of bad options, you might as well pick the one that you think practically, maybe I'm wrong, but practically gives you the best chance. And I had dreams in this position of using my favourite pawn, Harry. h5, push this guy all the way up the board and queen the bugger. So that was my dream here. I thought, practically speaking, this is good. But my opponent played excellent now. Bishop e3. Now, I must say, around this point, my opponent had spent a hell of a lot of time. And he was very short of time for the rest of the game now. Which is why he probably didn't convert this advantage and get his IM norm. Had he had more time here, I would have been, I'm playing on a bit of hustle mode now. I have to try to hustle on the clock. I played h4, might as well. He played king b8, good move, just tucking it away. And now I went rook f3. He has to move his bishop b6. And now I went rook f1 again. To be honest, if he'd have played bishop e3, would I have taken a draw? No, even though I know I'm probably losing here, I probably wouldn't have taken a draw. Not that my opponent did anyway. Because a draw would have given no money, and we drew this game, it had no money. I had to win, so I'd have found some... So maybe he should have repeated once and just see what I'd have done here. Because I think I would have to play for a win for the prize money, even if I'm probably going to lose. You have to gamble, and this is one of those situations. It's the difference between maybe €1,000 and nothing. You might as well gamble, hey? Even if it's like a 10-to-1 shot. But my opponent did not play this. He actually played an excellent move. He went e5. And now he's trying to bring his queen into the game. And I'm like, oh, God, this is getting horrible now. I made another mistake. I went h5 quickly. So I'm playing my moves quickly to try to get some kind of win on time. And now his bishop came back to e3, a move I had missed. Bloody hell, I'm missing a lot in this game. Don't normally miss this much. And he's threatening to take on f4. And now I got rather desperate. I played bishop. The weird thing is, this shows you I wasn't in the best of frames or mood here. And sometimes, like I say, it really depends on my psyche whether I can play well. And other times when I'm not quite there mentally, I can play a couple hundred points lower than I should do. And this is one of those cases, because I played bishop g4. He took on f4. And now there's no moves such as rook to d7 here. And I had planned, because he only had a minute left here, to play this move, rook d e1, instantaneously. This is what I had planned. Because I thought, if he's got under a minute left, this is a very tricky move to him to deal with, because I have threats of rook takes e3 and bishop f4. This is winning the queen. This is one of my strong threats. For example, if he goes queen e5, then he can easily walk into rook takes e3. So again, practically, I am playing on tricks, yes, but I kind of have to. This move, followed by bishop takes f4, would win me the game, probably. So I planned to play this move when, of course, he can go king a8, and he should play this. But in his time situation, it would have at least posed him some problems. Because he can easily crack in that position. Now, my hand went to move the rook, but instead, I played the move knight e2. And as soon as I played this move, I'm like, that's not the move I'd planned to play. I basically had some kind of, I don't know, like LSD trip here. Flashback kind of thing. And my hand went to move another piece, and I moved the wrong piece. It's like, what's going on? And I was like, looking at my hand thinking, it's like, out of, what's that thing there, that horror film, great horror film. Oh my God. With Ash in it, The Evil Dead, when his hand gets possessed and he has to chop it off. Because his hand gets possessed by his devil hand, and he has to chainsaw it off. I was kind of, that's all I was thinking of here. I was like thinking, where's the chainsaw? Let's get rid of that hand. Something's gone wrong. And I couldn't believe I played this move. And my opponent, again, now played excellently. He played queen e5, and now I'm forced into a really turgid, awful position. Bishop takes f4. He took. Rook takes f4. I thought, I have to try this. If I go knight takes f4, I thought he gets rid of my only trump, and that is this here. But actually, because if knight g6, knight g6 might work here, actually. Just looking at this position. Again, it shows you I was not on top form here. So even rook takes, bad move. My opponent played an excellent tactical move. Rook takes h5 check. The point is, if I take that rook, he takes my bishop and knight. So I have to play king g1. And I was expecting I'm going to lose here, and that'll be the end of my tournament. Queen e3 check, rook f2, rook d5. Simplifying the position, he's a queen up. Knight c3, only try. Rook takes rook, knight takes. And at least the one positive is that my pieces defend each other. Queen d4, and a good centralizing move. And now my only chance here, I thought, was bishop h5. And again, this is one thing you'll find strong players do. They play, at least find the trickiest way for their opponents to find the win. And my only chance here is to take this pawn and try to get Freddie down the board. And anything else, if I play slowly here, I will lose pathetically. So now my opponent played c5, opening up the bishop. And I now saw a tactical chance, my best try. Knight c3. And after b4, the idea is knight b5. And when my opponent literally, he gets 30 seconds per move, so he's playing on a 30-second increment. Meaning that if he, he has to play every move pretty much in 30 seconds because he's got no time. I have to say another thing which didn't annoy me, because I used to have this a lot against David Howe, one of England's best players, and probably, potential to be the best player in England, a good friend of mine. And I realised, because when I was a youngster, you didn't have any of this increment stuff where every move you play you get extra time. In my days, it was guillotine. You didn't get extra time. So I was brought up on these exciting finishes where you play without extra time coming in. So I played David Howe so many times when he would wait until he had 1 or 2 seconds left and then play a move, and he'd go up to 32 seconds. And there's so many times I try to win on time against David, and I end up playing bad moves. I know not to get excited, but even here, my opponent was doing exactly the same. He was one of the coolest customers I've ever seen. I mean, the guy is like, should be a character from The Big Lebowski, because he was literally sitting there, looked as cool as a cucumber. At the corner of my eye, I was keeping an eye on the clock, so I thought, if he loses on time, I get €1,000. Get in there, son. And I was looking at the corner of my clock, trying not to make it obvious, and I so many times, it must have happened about 20 times, I saw his clock go 5, 4, 3. And about this stage, when he had 3 seconds left, he would do this. He wouldn't rush, he would just go with 1 second left. And I was like, oh, God, he's done it again. I didn't do this emotion, but it was unbelievable how cool he was. I mean, the nastiest trick I ever saw was a Russian Grandmaster. And in a similar situation, when his opponent had 2 seconds left, he pointed at the clock and said, you've lost on time. His opponent went to look at the clock, and by the time he realised what was going on, he saw his clock go 2-1-0, completely cheating. Anyway, on to the game. So what's the idea of this? Well, my opponent played Queen d7, and my whole point now is bishop takes f7. Relying on Freddie. If he goes queen takes knight, I move my bishop and my f-pawn rolls. He has to go knight takes, and now knight d6. Queen f8, and now, knight takes c4. If I go f7, my opponent goes bishop d5, and he will get rid of this pawn with a winning position very easily. So I have to keep the tricks up. Knight takes c4, and now bishop d5, knight to e5. Again, keeping the tricks up. Now, I saw that my opponent could win quite simply here with the move queen d6. This is a very easy move to win. He just takes my knight. And if I go f7, he goes bishop takes f7, and this should be a fairly straightforward win for him. He's got a queen, and he's got rid of my one pawn. So it's fingers crossed job here, but my opponent played king c7, stopping knight d7 check, and now I go f7. And it's a bit unclear, because if he can't go bishop takes f7 now, because I win everything with rook takes. So he has to play king d6, and now I get the queen back, knight g6, and we get this ending here. Now this ending is still pretty bloody terrible for me, and I don't have any winning chances. So it's a bit of a bugger here, I can't win. But the reason I might have drawing chances is that his pawn on the rook's file, this is very important as we will see, is not, the queening square on A1 is not the same colour as his bishop. Now you might be thinking, what the hell does that mean? I don't understand that. You're going to see later on, this is a key thing about this ending. I do think that black's probably winning this ending, but it takes incredible skill to win it. Now, there's an amazing variation here, just to demonstrate what I meant by that point. My opponent played pawn takes a3, which is probably still very good. Now, both of us thought that king to e5, by a 10-move combination or more, was a draw. This is not true, and I'll show you why. Because what I'm aiming to do is get to a position, as I'll show you. Okay, so the tactical line now is if I give up my knight, pawn takes pawn. Now, if he goes pawn takes pawn, I have a check and I take that pawn. So he has to go king takes knight. And now I go pawn takes c5. And now the key thing here is, if I can get my king in front of his pawn, it's a draw. Even if there's no other white pawns on the board. And I'll show you this in a minute. So this is my key idea, but I'm a long way from there. So let's say king e5, good move. King f2, I'm trying to race over here. Pushing my pawns doesn't help. King d5, and now b4, something like this. And now king c4, king e3, I'm rushing across. King takes b4, king d2. And we both assumed in our analysis this was winning, but there's an unbelievable line here. King b3, king c1. Now, if I can play the move king b1, it's game over, because it's a draw. It's a dead draw. For example, let's say he plays bishop g6, I go c6, he goes a5, I go c7, he has to play bishop f5, I queen, he takes this one, I go king b1, this is a dead draw. a4, I can even give up this pawn, g4, he takes that one, because I go here, 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 and all I do is keep going king in the corner. This is a well-known theoretical draw, because if he ever tries to push his pawn, it's stalemate position, it's always stalemate. If he ever tries to check my king, I go back in the corner, it's going to be stalemate again. So this is we assume was a draw. There's an amazing move here, amazing endgame possibility. And that is, after king c1, my opponent can now play king a2. And this is really, I would say, an incredible move here. And the point is, after this move king a2, he's stopping my king coming across. So my king cannot come across here anymore. To b1, and this is slowly like a forced win here in this position, because there's nothing I can do. Let's say I go c6, he just goes something like bishop e8, forcing this on, and now he goes bishop d7, and his bishop controls both of my pawns. Let's say I go king c2, he advances this pawn all the way. Let's say king c1, here, 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 and eventually he now goes bishop f5, the key idea. And at the wrong moment, I'm going to have to move my king to d2, and now his king comes to b2. So this king a2 move is a brilliant way to win, when his winning plan is to eventually put his bishop on f5, force me to move my king because I'm in Zugzwang, and then he comes across, because my king has not quite reached the corner. I thought that was an unbelievable win. That's the first win. Let's go to the game. I know it's a long game, so we'll go to the game. He took on a3, I took back, and now king in, g3, king d4, king f2, and I'm trying to get my king into that corner. a5, king e2, king c3, king d1, king b3. And here I played a very bad move here. It was, again, a bit of tiredness here. I think if I play g4 here, with the idea of pushing this pawn as far as I can, I have great drawing chances. The key concept to remember here is that if I can get my king to the c3 square, then it should be a draw. All I have to do then is give up my knight for this pawn at the right moment. It should be a draw. So I played king d2, a big mistake. He went c4 and I went knight e2. Bishop h5, he's playing perfectly. Knight d4 check, and for some reason I thought he had to go king takes a3. Again, really stupid calculation. When after king c3, it's an easy draw here. This king c3 move it's really easy to draw this, because his king is stuck. It can't get out of the way, so his a pawn can push. It's going to be a draw. Now, he played king b2 instead, and I saw this at the last moment. I thought, why did I do this? So knight b5, bishop e8, and I have to try to blockade this, but now he takes my pawn, and the main thing is I can't play king c3 because I put my knight on this stupid square. So I play king c1, bishop g6, and now I just have to try to hold the position and at the right time give my knight up for the pawn and get my king to a1. King b3, knight d4 check, king c3 check, and I'm just going to try to keep checking him as much as I can. King b4. Let me just get to the position here. We might as well finish the game off now. And whereabouts are we? Okay, and now I was actually quite happy when I got this position because I thought I might be drawing because my king has now got here. And I thought my way to draw this is leave my king in a1 and then give my knight up for the pawn when I can. But as Keith Arkle, Endgame expert Keith Arkle pointed out afterwards, this is quite an easy win if he just zugzwangs me. He forces me to play a move I don't want to play. So, for example, here, he played perfectly, but he pushed the pawn, and we danced about a little bit here. My king goes here. And this is, again, it shows you the draw here. If my opponent ever goes c3, massive blunder because I go knight takes c3, and we get that same technical draw position we had before. He needs to keep his c-pawn. I just go king b1, king a1. This is a draw here. So instead of this move, he played king b3, correct. Knight d4 check, king here. We danced about a bit. And after here, check, here, this is all correct here. But now my opponent played a big mistake. He played the wrong move here and I was able to draw. Now, I saw the win here at the time. My opponent played king d3. Of course, it's time pressure. I went knight takes a3, and there's nothing he can do here. For example, we danced about a bit here, but of course I just keep my knight here and I give up the knight for the pawn when he pushes it. It's a very easy draw. Now, to show you the winning technique here, it's quite interesting that what he does here, he does this technique, as I said, called zugzwang. And the winning move here is the bishop g6 move. He gives up his a pawn now, but after knight takes a3, the computer indicates it's checkmate in 27 moves. Thank you, Komodo. And now he simply plays king to this square here, keep b4. And it's a very bizarre position because he's only got one pawn left, but I don't have a move here. Every move I play, I lose. I'm in zugzwang. I mean, if I go knight b1, he goes c2. So I can't do this. It's pawn queens. If I move the knight anywhere else, he takes my knight. If I go king a2, he goes bishop f7 check, and he wins the knight. So this was his missed win here in a very difficult game, a very difficult ending in a shorter time. And I managed to draw that in the end. Let's just see how it... Well, it continued, as we say. I basically just waited about here, and I don't have to do anything here. You know, my knight stays here. He can never come round to chase my knight, really, because my king will always take his pawn. So it's really just an easy draw here. And in the end, he had to go c2. And, of course, after c2, I took this pawn, and it's a draw. So no prize money for either of us, no norm for him. So it's probably the worst result, actually, in hindsight. But, you know, you're not going to give away points for free, are you, in chess? So very interesting draw there, I think. Very interesting moments, interesting opening, interesting middle game, and a very interesting ending, actually, where we both missed chances. I mean, I could have held it better, and my opponent could have played for that zugzwang ending. But actually, even though the computer indicates it very quickly, it's a very hard thing to see there at the end. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and I will come back with more game analysis and other stuff shortly. So, cheers for now.